I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is the Roundtable, where we send it around the room. And what do? We talk sports. Before we start, I have to do the thing. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little notify bell. We really appreciate it. Without you, there is no show. But let's get on to the show and move around the room. And I believe we have several subjects for the day. And Spinksy from Down Under, and you can find him on Spinksy NFL on Twitter and on Instagram, I understand. You brought up a pretty good subject to kick the ball around the table. Why don't you start off, my man?
Thanks, guys. Look, I watched the season finale of Westworld on Monday night, and Marshawn Lynch was there again, and it got me thinking about veterans who will return to their respective sports this year. This morning I wake up and looks like Frank Gore has signed with the New York Jets. So Frank Gore must be 74 years old now, and he's still getting around. So Frank Gore is coming back with the Jets. It looks like Marshawn Lynch will come back with the Seahawks at some point in 2020. I want everyone to go around the room and tell me, starting with you, Nate, what veteran in any sport would you like to see come back into the fold?
Why, thank you, Spinkser. Anyway, I'm going to have to go with a more recent guy who's retired, and that's Andrew Luck. Reason being is I think with a lot of the other people being thrown around, whether it's Barry Sanders, whether it's Calvin Johnson, Luke Kuechly, I think we've seen a lot of those guys best play in the league. Whether they continued that same the same standard of play, maybe, but I don't think they would have elevated their play. With Andrew Luck, I'm not quite sure we actually witnessed his prime. So with that being said, him coming back with the roster the Colts have this year with the draft class they had, I would have loved to see him with this current Colts team. Now, Tom.
Who'd I want? I had someone who I think, but I'm going to change my mind a little bit because could someone remind me who did the Dallas Cowboys draft in the first round?
Travis Frederick, yeah.
Yeah, Travis Frederick this year? Okay.
Okay. Not this year. C.D. Lamb. C.D. Lamb. All right. Where were we, guys? Where were we?
All right. So, I'm thinking, who would slaughter C.D. Lamb, but no one else but Lawrence Taylor? Put him on the Giants in this league. Now, you got to remember when Lawrence Taylor was putting up those monster sack numbers, quarterbacks were not throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. I think his numbers would even increase in this era for when it comes to sacks because it's more of a pass-happy league. So that's going to be something that'll be very interesting to see him coming back in his prime and posing as well. How do you feel, Van?
Well, he couldn't afford to play nowadays. Do you know the fines he would get for what he does to QBs, man? He would come off the field very confused. Very confused. I mean, yeah. But I would love to see him. I would love to see it happen. All right. Here's a player that I would like to see come back and actually play some football on the field, and that's Jameis Winston, because what he did last year was not football. Okay, 30 interceptions, man. That's Pop Warner stuff, man. Come on. I mean, he's just chucking it down. I swear he had his eyes closed. And then we understand he had LASIK surgery, and a new agent realized that, oh wow, he can't even see, a license plate. He can't read that. He can't read a street sign, and so supposedly now he can see clearly, and hopefully that's going to make all the difference. And it would be wild if it did, but I don't know, man. But I'm looking at it, and again, I'm serious. I'd like to see him come back and play some football. But if you're talking about an old school guy that I would like to see back on a team that could really use him right now, Roger Staubach on the Cowboys. Bring him back. That's me. Nate, what do you got there, big guy?
First of all, Lawrence Taylor, if he went up against Tyron Smith, he'd slap him with his dick, and then off to the floor he'd go. Big Tyrannosaurus Rex Smith would own his ass every snap of the play right now. And going back to the Jameis Winston, I think he's in a perfect situation right now. He went to a team that's good with quarterbacks, willing to take a pay cut, and sitting behind Drew Brees right now as a Ryan Tannehill as a model right now. I could easily see him getting a big contract a year from now and possibly starting for a franchise.
Well, I see we're going to save the best for last on this subject, which is fantastic because I think you guys are going to love my take on this. But you know who I would love to see back on the football field is Tony Romo, because I would absolutely love to hear him just sitting there with the microphone in his helmet saying, okay, we got defenders lined up over here. We got the linebackers shifting left here. I'm going to throw a 10-yard slant over on my right-hand side. Yep. And it's going to be a first down. And so I would absolutely love to see that. So Tony Romo for me, for new school guys, and then old school guy, I'm going to stay Marshall Faulk because we need some help with Todd Gurley going.
Honestly, you both stole mine. I had Stolbach, I had Romo, so I'm a bit lost for words now. So thank you all. But look, that was nice. It was nice to take a trip down memory lane. It'd be very nice if Romo came back with the Cowboys to have the offensive weapons that we have now. And I think going forward, the Cowboys will be doing wonders this year. So, Van, over to you. What's up next?
Well, and I'll have to throw in as a late entry, Travis Frederick, man, the guy that had to retire early because of the Bears syndrome. I really wish he could come back and pick up his career, but it's not the case, and we're going to miss him. That was a great subject, but now talking about veterans that are coming back, I understand you have a different type of veteran that's making a big comeback, Tom, right?
Yes. I believe some people might have seen on social media the sight of Mike Tyson at the age of 53 getting back in fighting shape. So there's some belief that Mike Tyson will come out of retirement and box one more match at least.
Oh, I thought it just meant he was going to get married again and have somebody to beat on.
No. So now let me ask you this question. I'll start with Josh. How do you feel about Mike Tyson coming back and potentially fighting another match?
Okay, so I was curious about this when you brought it up earlier as potential topic. So I looked into it a little bit, and at first I was kind of like, "Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me! Mike Tyson's gonna come back and fight." But when I looked into it, apparently he's boxing at a pretty good rate right now, and has got into some pretty good shape. I mean, that's according to his trainer, and then of course people around him, considering nobody else can really see firsthand what he's doing. But I, for one, would be excited. I mean, we're all in this nostalgic area. We're watching old school baseball games. We're watching The Last Dance, old school stuff. I mean, bring back Mike Tyson in the ring.
Oh, man.
How do you feel about that?
I actually saw some of the same information that you did. And when I was reading it, Josh, I was dying laughing because I had the vision in my head of like the artist painting the old king, that is a ruthless king that beheads people, and it's like, all right. And the king's asking him, how do I look? Do I look young and virile? And he's going, oh yeah, you look great, man. You look, oh yeah, don't worry. I'm painting you up. You're looking good. You're looking good. And they're asking Mike Tyson's trainer, how's Mike looking? Oh, he's looking great. He's looking solid, man.
The face tattoo makes you look 20. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll find out when he gets in the ring. Again, he was a world champion and an extraordinary one. I'm sure if they put some potatoes out there, he can make some guys wish they had taken him seriously. But that's it.
Spinksy, how do you feel about it?
Look, boxing was one of my first sports that I loved. The work it takes to become an excellent fighter, the showmanship, the camaraderie, the dedication that they show to their sport is like nothing else. Before UFC, which was just brutal for no reason, boxing was a man's sport. That was what you did. And I love Tyson. We've got a boxer over here in Australia, Anthony Mundine, and Mundine doesn't know when to quit either. Mundine's been carrying on. He's probably had 50-odd fights now. He should have retired 15 years ago. He's now fighting bums in the street. Like he fights nobodies. If Tyson's coming back because he's got no more money, I understand it. If Tyson's coming back because he wants to fight again, I understand it. But he's not going to come back and be the best that he once was. I don't know why guys need to come out of retirement to potentially ruin their legacy. Anyone up to the age of, say, 30 or up, loves Tyson, always has for some reason or the other. Anyone under 30 doesn't know Tyson. They're going to remember him as being the 50-year-old bum who came back and got beaten by a skinny white dude.
But George Foreman ruined it for everybody, man.
With the grill, yeah.
I mean, because how old was he when he decided he was going to come back and be world champion and
46.
did it?
Yeah. So I just don't get, like, I understand if it's about money because Mayweather does the same thing every couple of years. So if it's about money, fine, come back or make a grill or a sandwich toaster or something, but don't come back to rekindle what you once had, because that's not going to be there. And the young generation are only going to remember you for that and not for the man you once were. Man with the tattoo on his face. Some people only remember him from the Hangover movies, and that's fine. But come back and fight someone decent. Nate, I'm sure you've got an opinion on this, mate. How do you feel about Tyson?
Man, Mike Tyson's one of my favorite fighters of all time. As a matter of fact, if you took any heavyweight champion of all time and they fought on their best day and Mike Tyson fought on his best day, I think Mike Tyson smashes all of them. And there's not a doubt in my mind. With that being said, the only boxing Mike Tyson's going to be doing is hot boxing. Have you seen his podcast? Oh my God, the dude's having a ball. Just sitting there smoking the ganj all day, just having a great time. And it's interesting because when people see his pad work, people are surprised by this. I mean, that he looks like an actual fighter, but the reflexes don't leave these guys since they stopped fighting. I mean, for instance, there was a fight with Floyd Mayweather Sr., Floyd Jr.'s dad. He fought some 29-year-old guy in a sparring match, and you could see a 65-year-old still had snap and reflexes in his jabs. So this doesn't leave people. And lastly, I don't think Mike Tyson really has the will to, or really wants to compete at that level anymore. He's been there, done that. I see no reason why he's going to want to come back to this. He's having too much fun in his current life. Yes, Van?
Remember Serrano in Major League when he came back? Okay.
No.
Oh yeah, yeah,
No.
man. He came back and he was all into into meditation and everything like this and being peaceful and mellow. And he couldn't hit jack crap, man. He just he needed that aggression in order to do his thing. What, Tom?
I think with Tyson, why do I think it would happen? People will pay to see it, whether he's good or bad. Tyson is a media draw. People will go to see it. I would say the smart thing, maybe make it a 3-round exhibition, where he comes out and he just goes and, empties the tank quickly. I don't know who would want to step in the ring with him.
Spinksy.
Maybe Evander Holyfield. That would be interesting. But I think, it can happen. People will pay to see it, So that's my take on Tyson.
Oh, Evander Holyfield would be great. They could sell like fake ears and stuff, in the match. I mean, that would be awesome. They ought to do it all WWE style and go after it again. I mean, make it look like he's just like bleeding everywhere. That would be great.
They had celebrity death match between those two in the 90s after their fight. So they've settled the score.
Celebrity death matches are awesome. Highly underrated if you've not seen them on YouTube.
I think they're coming back.
Oh, they're just incredible. I love them. I totally, absolutely love them. All right, I got something I want to sling around the table here, and this is bust. When does a guy actually become a bust? And we could talk about any sport, but basically the team drafts him, gets a hold of him. They come to the team, whether it is a transfer or, in some sports, for whatever reason. And there are usually big expectations. You can't be a bust if you don't have big expectations, right?
Sure.
All right. So here recently, the Miami Dolphins, they cut Taco Charlton, who was the Dallas's 28th draft pick of the first round. Well, it was their first round draft pick. And of 2017, I believe. And the Cowboys had cut him. Dolphins had picked him up on waivers, and he can't even make their team. They cut him. All right. He's a bust. And then after him came players that had good careers. TJ Watt, who's just blowing it up. And there was a lot of Cowboys fans when Taco Charlton got picked that they were just like, oh, what did you do that for? And I know, Nate, you were one. He's still saying it, man. But so, I mean, teams want to talk all the time about, all right, what was your all-time bust or something like that? Well, I'm not interested in that. What's your most recent bust you can remember for your team or some team? What's an interesting bust? I mean, like I have a good friend. Ryan Leaf comes to mind whenever I think of bust, but Taco Charlton, I mean, he was just horrible for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm glad that they admitted it and moved on. What about you, Josh? Do you got somebody in mind where you're sitting there thinking, going, oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, he's a bust. He's a bust.
I do, but I want to just touch on the fact that the Miami Dolphins organization once again dropped the ball by cutting him on Thursday when they could have cut Taco on what day? Tuesday. So another big fail by the Miami Dolphins. But for from a Rams perspective, I'm just going to go back with the apparent QB of the future, Sam Bradford, that just that worked out so well for the Rams. I was like begging back for Mark Bulger during those times.
He was the last QB to get the huge contract before the CBA.
And he was the last QB to actually do something for the Rams.
He made more money per contract. He set some type of NFL record because when he went from the Rams, he signed 2 more contracts.
Yeah.
And both of them were humongous contracts. And he did the same thing. So he's like a triple dipper, man. I'll give you that. That's an awesome. He's a triple bust.
Yes, he was.
That's a damn. But the Rams have quite a few. You know, I thought maybe you're going to bring up the running back Phillips first round.
Yeah, but I mean, that
murder charge. I mean,
yeah, there could have been possibilities of that one. Maybe it wasn't like Sam Bradford where he saw the field was for so many seasons.
Oh,
I mean, like we talked about in the green room, somebody mentioned Jeff Fisher and just indeed.
It was pretty funny. I actually saw Sam Bradford in Vegas. He was sitting there. It was his birthday that day. I recognized him because he's married to a very successful tennis star. And I saw him together and I was just like, whoa. And I went over and dropped my card and said, yeah, hey man, happy birthday. And he was like, oh, wow. And it took him a minute and he realized, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. You busted me. And I was trying to get an interview with him, but he was on vacation. So it didn't work out. But yeah, totally. But a nice guy in person. Come on now, Spinksy. You got to have something in hand there. Come on. All-time bust. What do you got?
I thought you were going to cut to Nate next, mate.
I thought about it, but he was looking so ready. I said, nah, Spinksy, man, let's go.
So, look, not much of a bust as such. But since I've been covering the NFL draft, every year I try and find a guy in the 5th or 6th round that I beat the drum for. I want this guy to be solid. I want him to be awesome. He's been drafted somewhere here or there, and I just think he's got the most talent and probably should have gone 2nd or 3rd round. That guy in 2016 was Dallas Cowboys tight end Rico Gathers. I beat that table so hard for Rico Gathers. Yes, you all laugh now. At the time, we had an aging Jason Witten as our tight end. We had Schultz, we had Jarwin, we had guys who were rubbish. And I thought, you know what? This 6'8" monster of a human will be the future going forward. Rico Gathers is the man. Rico didn't get much shot on the field. He couldn't tackle. He couldn't block. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do anything. Then it turned out Rico was smoking heaps of the hooter. Rico was always high as a kite. Rico got a bit of a suspension here, a suspension there, and then his time on the field finally came. He
got laid out too, didn't he? In that one game. Oh man!
It was the wild card game. Might have been the wild card game, or it might have been the last game of the season. Rico was open for us to score a potential game-winning touchdown. The ball hit him in the chest, and Rico was too stoned to catch the fucking football. Excuse my language. Dropped it. And then since then on, Rico's been dropped. Then he got picked up by someone else a couple of weeks ago and dropped again. It's sad that most of the people I beat the drum for do actually okay. but Rico was like this and went boom, gone. So you might not remember Rico Gathers, but I always will. So thank you, Rico. You ruined my life. Thank you.
Yeah,
Now, Nate,
see,
who's your
that's
bust?
exactly what I love. That's a great story. He's not an all-time bust. He's just a bust. It's personal. So yeah, Nate, man, go ahead.
Yeah, but what about those preseason games, Spinksy? You see those 2 touchdowns he scored by our offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore? Talk about a throwback. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the most highly drafted quarterback in Cowboys history over the past 30 years. Quincy Carter, I think, was a big-time bust. You want to talk about a guy who was playing professional baseball or in the minor league systems, I think, with the Cubs, and got drafted by the Cowboys in the 2nd round. I think made it 4 years. Parcells got decent enough play out of him to get him to the playoffs. But then he just, speaking of the, I shot the sheriff. I mean, he flunked out several times due to drug issues. And then I think the Jets picked him up from there, and he never even played a down for them. So that's a bust, considering it's the most valued position in the league, and it's the most the Cowboys have invested in the position in almost over 30 years.
Well, all I can say to that is, Tom, you're up now, and I know that a team as storied and as historical as the Giants, you got plenty of busts. Come on.
Yeah, we do. Some that came to mind.
Jay, who? I'm sorry, what? Go ahead.
One was Cedric Jones, defensive end with the number 5 pick overall. Tyrone Wheatley popped up. But if we're going recently,
yeah,
that's even tougher. That's either Eric Flowers or Eli Apple. I would say Eli Apple was a bigger bust because first
he
of all,
went on to play fairly well though with the Saints, didn't he?
With the Saints, not with the Giants.
Well, yeah, but I
mean, with Eli Apple, that position, first off, they needed. I call that the curse of Larry Tunsil's gravity bong hit.
Because is that all because he got dunked into the ice tub?
No, that was he also had locker room issues. Apparently, he got suspended a few times, and
he refused to carry the shoulder pads and stuff as a rookie hazing. He tried to fight the rookie hazing.
Yeah.
And so they carried it into the next season.
Mm-hmm. And then I remember one time Jeremy Shockey fought the rookie hazing by fighting other teammates, which is, I think, the way to go if you're going to fight hazing in the NFL. But with Eric Flowers, the Giants needed a tackle, so you understood that move. And I look at, the talent, I think Jack Conklin, he was taken before that Giants pick.
Yes.
And when Eli Apple got selected, the only thing worse than booing your first round pick is asking who the heck this person is. Because
okay, so now you're under the David Jones pick, right? Oh, so I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were going to bring that up or not. That's on me. That's on me. That's my bad. My bad.
That's all right. Keep on hitting it. Swing it while you can. We'll be laughing if Dak Prescott $30 million.
I think the jury's still out on Daniel Jones.
But hey, he proved he did better than what a lot of us thought. But I would go with the bust, Eli Apple.
Yeah, I could see that being brutal to hold on to. Yeah, that's no fun. Those are all pretty brutal. All right, well, let's change up again and let's talk about something that we've all been waiting on. Pins and needles here, because we're going to talk about, UFC 248 was forever ago. All right, now we're going to talk about UFC 249 before UFC 250 is even on the card or something like that. What the hell is UFC 249? And why do you want to talk about it?
It goes without saying, if you have any degree of testosterone in your body, you have to be into the fight game. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about this. I mean, we got the main event. We got Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje, 2 guys that love to absolutely just scrap. Just YouTube right now, if you're not familiar, Justin Gaethje. The guy is an absolute tank. Keeps coming forward, keeps throwing bombs. You could hit him with the kitchen sink. He'll keep coming at you. Does not back down an ounce. And because it took so long to get this card together, they're combining cards. So you have an ultimately stacked card, which is you're getting fights that you'd have to pay money on pay-per-view for that you're going to get free on television for the most part. And the interesting part about this is they're still scheduled to have UFC 250 June 6th, but they don't have a main event scheduled yet because of all this pandemic bullshit. So, I mean, do you guys even know what I'm talking about, or am I just talking to the screen?
I hear you, man. There's going to be some janitors and some other people that they could get to actually show up, and they're going to put them in the ring. This is sort of like those things where you went around and they had like the local guys out of bars fighting, right?
I'm with you, Nate. This has been a long time coming. It's been about 3 months since the last one, I think it was. Some of these fights are impeccable. Usually you might watch 5 or 6 ordinary fights just to watch 2 awesome fights. And on this card, it is awesome fight from the word go. I think there's 13 fights on the card. It is going to be off the chain. I can't wait. It's only a few more days out. If it still goes ahead, I'm so excited. It's going to be so much fun. It's been so long since we've had some actual decent sport to watch, and I'm pumped, man. It's going to be so good. Can't wait.
I'm actually teasing, trying to get a rise out of both of you guys. It is going to be a heck of a fight, and I'm excited about it. We're actually going to be covering it from quite a few angles here, the whole card, the whole event. Tom, what's your take on what's going on there, man? You usually stay on top of this pretty well.
This is going to be the litmus test, where it's, can this go off without any incident? I think, people are starved for live sports. The ESPN is airing Korean baseball at 1 a.m. with Carl Ravitch calling the games. So, it's, people need it. I want to see, what the buy rate's going to be, if people will go in and get invested. But the one thing about MMA fights and UFC is that, you can see, a fight with, not well-known fighters, and they rise up. My perfect example of this is the Forrest Griffin Stephan Bonner fight, which I think really stepped up UFC to a higher level. So I think the buy rates will be interesting, and also the product itself. You need to have good fights. Good fights are what's going to bring people back and over again. Josh, how do you feel about UFC coming back?
Well, as I'm sure you guys know, I'm not the biggest UFC fan when it comes to in the ring, but I tell you what, I am a big UFC fan of what Dana White and what he does in regards to his entrepreneurship in bringing things back. So obviously the precedent kind of was set in Florida when it came to WWE having live events without crowds, and they were able to have, stationary staff and medical people available, live camera people, upwards of 200-300 people in a venue. So, just for Dana White to go on this, and like you said, Tom, for him, to capitalize on the want for people right now who want sports, who want to watch anything. Like the NHL, for instance, is going to bypass playing the rest of the season and going to have their draft at the beginning of June because they saw how viable the NFL draft was and just any actual live sports content that people have been following. So, I'm fascinated for it. I have a lot of friends who are big fight fans. I do enjoy a little bit of it. And it sounds like, like what Spinksy and Nate were talking about from the quality of the cards. I mean, this is probably one of those ones that I should tune into because I do love the more technical aspect of it as opposed to just the showmanship. Oh, so-and-so, it's Conor McGregor versus blah, blah, blah. Like I don't really like that as much as the, whole, get some great fighters together and watch them compete at the highest level in their sport.
Yeah, it's interesting because Tom brought up the litmus test, and you look at someone like the WWE, who they thought they were running a gambit on all of sports, and they've actually taken a loss since this whole pandemic has begun. So it's going to be interesting about to see the buy rates and things of that nature. But who is fighting on this card, or who I know you guys know? Greg Hardy.
Yes.
Like one of the Hardy Boys?
No,
like from WWE, like one of the Hardy Boys? Because if that's the case, I am tuning in to watch that guy flip off a ladder on somebody.
No, it's actually Greg Hardy versus his ex-girlfriend with no guns around the bed this time.
I can tell it was. It's not.
Oh my
One of the
god.
Hardy Boys from Spinksy's reaction on this. So maybe I'm just gonna go, guys. I'm just gonna mute my mic.
No, no. I thought you meant the Hardy Boys as in the books that you read growing up as a kid.
Those were good. Those were good too. But I
Those
mean,
were good
a little,
too,
bit,
yeah.
a little closer in sport, maybe.
Joshua, actually with Tom's lead in there, that leads right into your subject as well, about basically sports coming back. And you mentioned, the 300 people together that, he's going to have to put in there. And we've talked about sports islands, different things. There are venues, Vegas has reached out and Disney have reached out to the NBA trying to come up with stuff. And we have talked here and thought like, yeah, the NFL is sitting pretty nice. It looks like the calendar is going to allow them to have the most semblance of a normal progression or semi-normal into their season. But what UFC is doing here is just pretty damn awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. It's it's kind of like a start back into sport, like a trial run. I mean, like Tom said,
I hope it works.
and then Nate kind of reiterated, it's a litmus test. It's are we going to be able to actually have sports? Obviously there's not going to be fans for a while, for months. I mean, the NFL, I think that's a little bit optimistic, saying that they will have fans. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Miami Dolphins petition to the Florida government.
No, they're going to petition that they're actually be allowed to play football for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah, they're going to petition to actually allow them to have a football team.
Yeah.
No, but so what they want to do is be able to host games and run it as in a kind of social distance setting where they would be allowed 15,000 people in a 35,000.
That's what I was curious about. Taking these stadiums, they're gonna
Yeah.
bring it down to about 1/3 capacity or even 1/4 capacity, but they're still gonna have to come up with a way to route people so that you're only walking one direction and stuff like that. Yeah, Tom.
That's like a New York Giants home camp anyway. Just have everyone separated.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. When you're paying Dak Prescott $35 million, and you have all the Giants and Redskin fans coming in, to your stadium, be like, hey, how did that happen? But anywho, one of the points I want to bring up is just because the games are opening up and they are open to the public, will the public come back? That's one question you need to ask. Will the public come back? And also, what would ticket prices be if they're only 15,000?
Yeah, no, that's a great thing. Spinksy, what do you think?
I know it's been weird having to watch, like we watched WrestleMania with no fans in the stands, and I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. Wrestling's a fake sport, right? So they need to have the crowds there so that.
Hold on.
No.
Stop.
You just killed so many people right now.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Kids go out of the room. Okay. Go ahead, Spinksy.
Don't you dare tell me the Easter Bunny's not real either, Spinksy.
No, Spinksy, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't you do it.
Have the crowd there because wrestling needs the crowd, whereas other sports don't necessarily need the crowd, right? Our sport here in Australia is starting again in 3 weeks' time. On the 28th of May, we're having rugby league and potentially AFL come back. And I know the Korean baseball is coming back soon. It looks like your guys' baseball might be back soon. And I know you guys think that American sport is the only sport there is, but our sport is here too, okay? Because we're being sensible, we are social distancing, we are almost coronavirus free over here. So you guys need to sort your shit out, get your shit together, stay home, do what you're going to do so that we can have a season coming up soon. In the meantime, stay home and watch the NRL, watch some UFC, watch some WrestleMania with no fans there, watch some Korean baseball, watch whatever you need to, but stay home and be sensible about it so that come August, we can have an NFL season. Think about it, people. Think about it.
Well, Nate, I actually saw an idea once that it was an old movie actually, and I thought their solution to not having an audience was fantastic. They just took blow-up dolls and put in chairs. I mean, and there's got to be plenty of blow-up dolls laying around that are probably heavily used, probably need to be recycled, whatever like that. With all of the COVID-19 stuff stay at home. So we could just put those in the stands and give it that special je ne sais quoi fan feeling. What do you think, Nate?
You had me at blow up doll.
Ah, okay.
But speaking going that direction, why don't we just have it like a giant sitcom? We have a laugh track or a cheer track during a touchdown or a home run or something like that. Just make it into a giant sitcom.
Okay, hold on. I got one last question for Spinksy. So you're telling me that wrestling is fake?
We watched WrestleMania. Anyone who watched, I grew up loving wrestling, trying the moves on my brother, jumping off a chair onto him, jumping off the couch onto him. I was the bigger brother, so I always did the moves on him. He's a bit simple now, but that's just him, okay?
I was just gonna say, if you haven't paralyzed one of your friends or family, almost paralyzed one of your friends or family members doing wrestling moves, then you haven't been a real wrestling fan.
I was devastated when I first found out. I grew up watching famous Stereo, Texas Chainsaw, Charlie, Cactus Jack, all those guys. I loved it, and then I found out myself, and I cried. So I don't know how grown men still watch wrestling, but I that's your thing. I get it. That's your thing.
Well, I think as sports comes back, I think, yeah, people will jump to it. And I think the first sport back, that's why they're rushing to be the first sport back. That's why Dana White is on top of it. And all right, now we have a real sports fan here. Is fans are going to come back. The problem is in places like the U.S., where there's like protests going on and things like this that are really impacting the effect of social distancing and this and that. I think in countries that are more used to working with the government and stuff like that, Australia, they do that. They semi-trust the government down there. Like, okay, they might not be the greatest, but they're not going to totally mess us over, and that's like, Switzerland can do some things that other countries can't because they believe in their government. They trust. They go, okay, you want us to do this? We'll do this. Got to do this for 2 months? Okay. Then they don't go out and have protests with weapons and create problems. But here in the U.S., I believe Lee was just mentioning that, the Texas beaches were packed for the last 2 days. And we're probably going to have this thing come back in the winter. And then that's when it's going to, hit the NFL, I think. And it's going to be interesting because I think what you pointed out, Spinksy and Josh, is that, yeah, it's going to be sports from around the world that's going to win. And it's not going to be the popular big league American-driven sports, because I think that in America, we're going to screw it up.
Yeah, and it's
all sad here.
If we do something like open up stadiums to the public, it'll be interesting to see regionally who shows up and who doesn't. Like I think in California, there's a lot less people that would probably show up to games than there probably would in the Bible Belt here. Right. So it's really going to be interesting to see if they do open it to the public, the regional differences.
Yeah, well, California's always been, especially Southern California, well, actually Northern as well, they've had that wine and cheese, laissez-faire attitude, reputation of like, hey, I can take it, I can leave it. The weather's perfect today. It's December. It's 70 plus. I can go to the beach. I don't need to go wait in line for 3 hours to get a $10 hot dog. So there are, options out here where, if it's winter back in New York, you go to the ballgame.
Like you guys have got the NFL, the MDA, sports that don't need to promote themselves anywhere. They're just there. They're in China, they're in Vietnam, they're in these third world countries, they're in Australia. Your sports are all over the world. At the end of this month, the NRL, the National Rugby League in Australia, will go live, and being one of only maybe 3 sports in the whole world going live. And everyone in the whole world who's sports stars will be watching this game. And they're like, what is this? You guys wait. End of this month, you'll be having a podcast on this. I guarantee it.
Yes. We intend to, hopefully with highlights, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, I love rugby. I think it's a great sport. So that's fine with me. Well, hey guys, pardon?
What was that, a sign you have the clap?
Yeah, exactly.
So where
And
are
of
you
course,
getting these?
you
fancy-
recognized it right
Look at
away,
the signs
didn't you,
up
Nate?
there.
Okay. Oh,
How
that
you
looks
getting
like
these
my
fancy
badge. Okay. All right. And thanks, everyone. Be sure and leave down in the comments. Answer some of these questions. Who do you think was some of the most recent bust you can remember? That would be pretty interesting. And what do you think is going to happen when sports start coming back? Is rugby going to end up being one of the best sports around, which it already is? All right, according to some people, or is it going to be a matter of everybody just going to wait for their favorite sport to come back and that's it? Or have the wives reclaim the living room on Sunday afternoons, and now it's going to be dinner and a movie. Be sure and comment below, hit that subscribe button, hit that notify bell. Let's work around the room real quick. Spinksy, tell them how they can find you on social media, please, sir.
You can find me at Spinksy NFL, where I will not be talking about the wrestling. Sorry if I ruined anyone's life talking about wrestling. I'm very sorry, kids. I'm sorry.
And by the way, everybody, also, we are going to be doing this live every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So set your chronos, be here. It's going to be a blast, and no telling who's going to be on. Tom, tell them where they can find you in the meantime.
You can follow me on Twitter at defense_com, at DFENDS_com.
It's that simple, people. Mr. Nate, no remorse Dowdy, sir.
For all my freaks out there, you can find me at No Remorse Sports.
All right, and the man with the best background of Sports Talk Line, of all of its people right there, Mr. Joshua Griffith. Tell us some information, sir.
Well, first off, you can find me on Twitter right down there at the bottom as I just kind of point to it. I know it's really small for you guys. Maybe just kind of enhance it or zoom in. It's at Joshua Griffith 0, the number on Twitter. And also, too, really excited on Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be going live for my show, which is perfect because these guys cut me off way too much tonight. I had so much more sports information.
And that's all we have time for Joshua today. So we'd like to thank everyone for being here. Be sure and follow me at Stephen Vanover and at Sports Talk Line. And come back and watch Mr. Joshua Griffith, where he holds the channel and decides who's going to talk and how long. Joshua, it was beautiful. Thank you all for being here. And to everyone out there who took time out of their day, listen and watch Like You Play with intensity. I had to do